He had some guys that struggled from the field. Um, it's just unfortunate. We competed for most of the game, and again, it's a make or miss league, and you got to make open looks when you get them, and that's just the way the ball bounces sometimes. So, our biggest thing is just to get back, fill our cups back up, uh, and then go defend our home court just as they did tonight.
Darwin, you made that run to get within one in the third quarter, and it looked like you're maybe trying to get AD a quick rest. Not just those minutes, but in general, without AD, what do you guys have to do better? And is there any thought about
we
getting
had
bigger?
we had some untimely possessions where we didn't finish with a rebound, and they were able to get one, maybe two offensive rebounds in that stretch. And a team like that, they thrive off those hustle plays, getting those 50-50 balls. They got enough scoring output where you give them second and third chances at it, they're going to make you pay. So I just thought some of those unfortunate defensive possessions where we couldn't finish with a rebound hurt us. But overall, our guys came out tonight to compete, and again, we just didn't make enough shots, and some untimely turnovers and some untimely lack of defensive rebounding.
You didn't give Wenyan a few more minutes tonight. Are you just looking to try to match a little bit of their size with some of those second units more?
Absolutely, and then when you throw him out there, even if it's in short spurts, he's always one that brings great energy to the game, as he did tonight when we threw him out there. So we'll go back to the drawing board, look at the film, and see what we come up with. And again, the biggest part is to be ready to come out on Friday like gangbusters and compete for 48 minutes or however long it takes.
Darwin, a couple questions. With about 9.5 minutes left in the fourth, you guys were in a timeout down 24. What was the kind of the balance between let's try to close this gap versus trying to maybe use that time to buy LeBron some rest, to buy AD some rest?
It's tough, man, because when you're competitive, it's like you feel like, in today's basketball, the three-point shot, it can be the great equalizer. You can chew up a deficit really, really quickly. We gave up I think it was a 14-1 run to them in the first half last game in Game 4. So it just shows you, and that was in a span of maybe a couple of minutes, maybe 2-3 minutes. But it's the great conundrum. Do you compete harder and hopefully see some shots go in, get to the free throw line, get the scoreboard moving, or do you take that time, like as you just said, and try to soak up some minutes with those guys getting ice on the sideline or whatever? But it's playoff basketball, man. Everybody's in a competitive mode, and we decided to leave our guys out there.
LeBron has been pretty open about talking about his fatigue levels and stuff like that. 1 for 9 from 3 tonight. He was the first of the regulars to come out. Why did you choose that time with him?
Just to start, he and I made eye contact, and we had a nonverbal discussion, and it was time. We're going to need him big on Friday, so it was time. Simple as that.
And defensively, their backcourt, I think, as I'm looking at it, 64 points for Bane and Morant. You guys did adjust a little bit on Bane in the second half, started a little bit more, but was that just great players having a great game, or is there more you think you guys can do against them?
Totally. I mean, again, we'll go back and look at it. Their crowd's behind them. It's just one of those things. He had 21 in the first half, 11 in the second, and Ja got away from us a little bit, 13, 18. We both slowed down their scoring output, but, Jaren Jackson wakes up. So it's one of those things, man. You're dealing with a good team. This is what playoff basketball is all about. So, again, we'll go back, look at the film, and then come up with the best possible plan for Friday.
Darwin, to follow up on LeBron, with the exception of Game 2, he hasn't really had one of his typical scoring outbursts. Have you noticed anything different with him offensively, or where do you feel like he's at? Like, has that fatigue kind of trickled in to his offensive game, you feel like, or it's just the way they're defending him? Or
I mean, they just play a physical defensive game, and, they're switching off on him. It's Brooks on him, it's Tillman, it's Jackson, and those guys are all capable, very high capable defenders, and all play a physical defensive style individually, and their team, they show you bodies, and their key thing is to take away the paint. So, we just got to figure out ways how, the same thing we did with AD, just figure out a way to move them around and we got plenty of stuff in our package to be able to give him different areas to be in attack mode from. But, Bron is one of the greatest to ever do it. And so we'll definitely put our heads together and figure out the best plan of action.
Darwin, why do you think it is through these first 5 games that when either LeBron has a good offensive night, AD seemingly doesn't have as strong as a one, or vice versa? When AD does, LeBron doesn't. Why do you think they haven't got on the same page?
I mean, it's just the way that things have been going right now. And, it's our job to make sure that we give them the opportunity to both be on point at the same time simultaneously. And you see those guys have, like, as you mentioned, different nights is one of their nights. And the next day, whoever had the big night, the defense is more geared toward them. And sometimes it goes like that. So, but again, we're a resilient ball club. We've been through a lot this season, and nothing has changed in terms of how we go about trying to figure out a way to respond the right way. And we'll do that going into this next game.
Darwin, I know you'll sit with your coaches, but presuming you don't want to come back here, would Game 6 be a way to extend minutes, almost treat it like, not a Game 7 specifically, but is that something that's in play for Friday?
Absolutely. We're going to do what we need to do to try to get that game at home. So all resources will be on deck.
With it being a Game 6, is there more pressure on the Lakers to get it done so you don't come back here, or is it more on Memphis because they have to win?
We were told we weren't going to be here in the first place, so it's no pressure. It's just basketball.
Two related things, Taylor. One, you threw a curveball late first quarter with the Ja, Tyus, Des, Luke all together. Was that something that you had planned from the jump to get to? And then related, what can you tell us about Luke's shoulder situation?
Working backwards, TBD. I think he just got cracked on a screen, just getting evaluated, was feeling fine, in the locker room, good spirits. Was maybe a little bit more precautionary, but I don't have all the details on what happened to Luke outside of where he got hit in his shoulder. And that was definitely by design. I just wanted to try something different, some small ball, the points of attack that, we've been seeing over the course of the series, in different spots at the end of quarters, beginning of quarters. That was something I just wanted to try and see, and we'll evaluate, watch the film, see how good it was for us.
Taylor, just wondering, kind of going off that same point, you had a lot of success with that lineup in the first and in the third quarter, but you subbed Dylan Brooks out first in the third. I think that's usually, different from your typical sub patterns. Just wondering, were you planning on going away from Dylan Brooks in that second half if Luke didn't get hurt?
I was just being open-minded, seeing what the game was showing us. Obviously, wanted to be prepared. I mean, obviously, it was a win-or-go-home situation. Just wanted to try different things. Obviously, DB came back in the fourth quarter, and just having Luke out there with Dez, those two guys on the floor together have been really good for us. And obviously, if Luke doesn't get that stinger, who knows what would happen in the fourth quarter. Too hard to tell. It was just going to be a matter of just kind of reading the situation, reading where we were at. They obviously think, Russell went on some, crazy run to start the third quarter. So obviously we knew we had to, counter. So that was just kind of my gut call.
LeBron had one of his worst games of his career within this context, in a closeout game, things like that. He shot 5 of 17, 1 of 9 from 3. How much did you guys, defensive pressure-wise, have to do with that?
I hope a lot. I mean, we're going to need it again in Game 6. So it's on-ball pressure, it's crowds, it's not let him get going in transition, which I know he did a couple of times. And I'll go back and watch a film and see where he was attacking mostly from, and then just how our defense stood up. But obviously, we know he's a huge focal point, and when he establishes himself with his physicality and force that he plays with, it can be a long game. But I think our guys held up pretty well with executing our pick and roll coverages, and how we were helping, when he had the ball in his hands. I'll just have to watch the film a little bit more.
Taylor, you get double-doubles from Dez, Ja, and Jaren. How much does that help, and how much do you need that to keep the series going?
We need it for sure. We need better. I'm going to challenge our guys not to be satisfied. I challenge the guys coming into the game that, we've got to establish our physicality. We've got to win the 50-50 ball, matchup there. Showed them clips, late in the game where in the fourth quarter and overtime in Game 4, that cost us the game when we're not battling on the board. So these guys, owning that and coming out with double-doubles is really impressive. We know how important our guard rebounding is when our bigs are battling down there, with Davis and other guys that are crashing. We need more. We need better.
Taylor, in regards to Ja and Dez specifically. They cut. You mentioned they cut that your lead to 1 in the third quarter. It's going back and forth, and then you go on that kind of definitive run to close the third. I'm just curious what you saw from the poise your guys had, and you had this big lead, you lose it, and then the response. It seemed like it was led by John Dez. I'm curious what you saw as they were going through that.
Exactly that. I mean, I think I called the timeout. Guys came into the huddle, and we just talked about we just keep weathering it. I mean, they made a run. We knew this, is going to potentially happen at some point, even with a lead starting the second half. And we just got to go out there and just keep executing what we know we're capable of doing and what we just got to control. I think 2 of his buckets were in transition. One was in a pick and roll in the mid-range. And then it's just like, hey, they're going to score. We just got to respond. I thought our pace really picked up in that third quarter, which got, Ja going. Our execution in the half court, the spacing and whatnot really led to, good stuff for both him and Dez to operate. Dez starts knocking down threes. You just saw us get a rhythm going there. The group that was in there to finish that third quarter really set a tone for us after that lead getting cut into 1, and then just continue to build it and having a nice lead going into the fourth quarter.
Just kind of on that same point, Ja and Dez both just attacking downhill, but also crashing glass. Did you see like those 2 in particular take it upon themselves to play with force and just really kind of set a tone with the urgency in a win-and-go-home situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those guys were spectacular tonight. We're going to need even more and better from them in Game 6. But these guys definitely play with force. That was stuff we were talking about before the game. Every time out, in our play calls and what we were talking about, game plan-wise offensively, how we wanted to attack, it's establishing force and downhill attacks and, then creating ball movement and advantages on the second side with that. But those guys were great. Obviously, they made their adjustments. The Lakers, keying in on Dez a little bit more. I thought the ball movement was really good. Execute a little bit better, knock down a few more shots, and maybe they get out of it. But I thought those guys especially, just establishing the pace in the full court, getting out into our transition offense a little bit better, but then in the half court really attacking and not accepting the pressure that the Lakers have been playing with first 4 games of the series.
Taylor, did you get the sense from your best player and your second best scorer most of the year in Dez that this was the game that they weren't going to let you lose?
Absolutely. I mean, how do you say it? Just the mentality coming out of Game 4, as disappointing as a loss that was, these guys got a lot of fight in them. They got a lot of resolve in them. The moment they walked in the building today, I could see the look in their eyes. But then when I really challenged them and the entire group, there was just this kind of like stoic, poise about them. They knew they received the message well. They knew they were going to go out there and execute it. And we had to have their best. And I'm going to continue to tell them, don't be satisfied because this wasn't our best. We got to continue to search for our best.
Just going off of that, you're talking about, the mentality of these guys. X after the game, he's telling the fans, we'll be back, for Game 7. Even before the game, Dez was confident that you could get to a Game 7. Where's that, I guess the question is, what does the locker room, feel like now after this game, having that success in Game 5? It sounds like, the guys are confident going into this next game.
Yeah, confident but determined too. We still know we have a lot of work to do. Challenge them immediately after the game as well. And there's no celebration whatsoever after having, a really nice, victory. So we know we got to go on the road. We haven't run a game on the road in a minute here, and especially in the playoffs, we got to go do it. So I think the focus is being determined. Just being determined to go out there and continue to improve. These guys want to continue to get challenged. They told me immediately after the game, keep challenging us like you did going into this game. That's the mentality we got to carry going into another, down 3-2 game.
There were times when the offense was humming and then times when it had a little bit of a lull. I'm curious what you think the difference was during those moments, and then what role did your defense play, I guess, in creating the big runs?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had a huge spark in that third quarter, and the sustainability of it. It's going to come to a point in the fourth quarter where it's going to slow down a little bit. They make their run, but you don't want to rush into some poor possessions. There were definitely some possessions we wish you could have back in that fourth quarter. We got to get organized a little bit better. Everyone's got to be on the same page. I thought for the most part we were good, but the times we weren't, we had ugly possessions first half as well. So we just got to just keep pushing that pace as much as possible. I mean, lulls are going to happen. That's where we got to really dial up our execution, and it's going to be good to watch the film and clean up those situations. I think the players even said in their post on court interview that we can't let a lead slip away like that as hard as we built it up. And did that answer your second one? What was yours? Yeah. Well, it was important. I mean, again, it's playoffs are a series of adjustments. We're not making these wholesale adjustments. We had a couple of things that we threw out there from a pick and roll standpoint that I thought benefited us. And again, it's like when we don't execute our game plan, they make us pay. They get the looks that they want. They may miss them, but we got to just disrupt the rhythm as much as possible. But I thought our defense was really good. The way we swarmed, obviously, we just talked about 3 guys that had 10 rebounds. That's huge for us. We've got to clamp down on defense. I said it starts with our defense. Going into the fourth quarter, I said it starts with our defense, and that's what let us down in game 4. Excuse me. Game 5, we got to have it for 48 minutes.
Small change on the back of the rotation with Conchar over Roddy in this one. Were there specific attributes you were trying to get into the game with that decision?
I think Roddy's done a really good job and was just kind of, looking at some of the numbers, again, diving into the matchups and lineups and, where Jitty's had success, where Santi's had success, where D-Rod's had success, and just trying something where, Jitty's been impactful for us all season long. His on-ball defense, obviously in game 2, he was big for us at home. So, trying to just, muster up that again, his rebounding, even though he plays little minutes, he gets in there and he can really help us on the boards. So it's just kind of a gut call to maybe just change something, knowing that we're going to do some other things with our lineups as well.
Taylor, when Jaren is picking up those back-to-back fouls like that late in the fourth and you're holding on to that lead, is it a fatigue thing or do you think it's just how the Lakers are just trying to attack him? If so, what are you telling him when you're calling timeouts?
Just stay locked in, stay poised. I think his teammates are doing a great job too. I think the second one may be a little bit out of frustration. There was a loose ball one as well. So we know that he's got to continue to get better in that area, and he's done a pretty good job all season long. Luckily, it didn't bite us, but I thought he responded well, and we're just continuing to tell him to go out there, be aggressive. Stay disciplined as much as you can, stay locked in. Whatever happens, just get to the next play. And I thought for the most part, over the course of the game, he did a really good job with that. Great, thanks everyone.
Yep.
LeBron, Game 6, Friday, back at home. Darvin said you almost have to treat it like a Game 7 in a sense. Obviously, you don't want to come back here. It might extend minutes. What are the most important things that you've learned over the course of this series about what you guys have to do to win that game on Friday?
Not turn the ball over, defensive rebound, keep them out of transition. That's where they're very elite, and when we're in tune with those, facets of the game, we're pretty good.
How much, all the experience you've had in all the different home arenas, like how much do you get an actual boost when you're fatigued and when you don't have legs from a crowd in that kind of a setting?
The crowd automatically gives you an extra boost, but we also have to be mentally locked in, understand the assignments, and execute those close to 48 minutes as possible.
The way these first 5 games have gone, LeBron, it just seems like if AD has a strong offensive night, you might not, and vice versa. If you do, he hasn't. Is that coincidental? Has that been from the Grizzlies, their defensive schemes? Did you explain that at all?
No, we just haven't put together 2 performances together, but we still have put 3 team efforts together to be up 3-2, and that's what's most important. It's not about what AD and myself are doing. It's about how we can win basketball games. And tonight I was shit, and I'll be better in Game 6.
When they went on the 26-2 run, late third through early fourth, Austin thought some of it was missed shots. Vando thought some of it was just them play with more desperation. Did you see anything that fueled that run for them?
We got 6 or 7 great looks from the three-point line. A couple of them from me, a couple of them from Bees, a couple from Rui. Offensive rebounds after those kickouts, and we just couldn't make at the time, and they was able to get downhill, and they was able to make as well. Hit a couple of threes after some offensive rebounds, whatever the case may be. But you give credit what credit is due. They played great tonight, and we go back home for Game 6 on Friday.
LeBron, what's the biggest key to getting better minutes for when it's like a mixture of starters and bench, and those lineups where you guys are integrating guys?
I don't know. Obviously I got to take a look at the film, but we all just got to be better. And it definitely starts with me. Tonight I was not very good at all. I think defensively I was pretty good, but offensively I was, not really good. We all got to do a better job helping one another.
LeBron, obviously the other night, tremendous effort. Just how spent were you physically coming into this one?
I'm good.
Any questions of how you were going to feel Game 6?
I don't know. I mean, it's 2 days from now, so I have no idea. But obviously, me taking care of the body, trying to get as much sleep as I can, and seeing how fast the body can recover. Getting ready for Friday. So, we'll see.
LJ, their backcourt, Desmond and Ja, combined for 64 points. What's going to be the best way to try and contain them?
I mean, they were great. Desmond started off, I think he had 18 in the first, and kept it going from there. And, Ja was Ja tonight. So, we got to do a better job of, not letting them see as many cracks and as many seams as possible, especially in that fourth quarter. We kind of switched the defense early and went to a different, defensive scheme that we haven't went to much this series. And Desmond definitely, was able to, I think, get 3 or 4 buckets after that. A couple and ones and a couple of drives, things of that nature. But we got to do a better job on those guys. But they're definitely really good 2 players.
LeBron, what did you see from AD tonight in terms of a bounce-back performance offensively?
He was just aggressive, all 35 minutes that he played, looking for a shot, rebounding at a high level, and it's great to see him being in a rhythm.
Ja, how important was it? You've had a great game in this series. Jaren had, Desmond had. Tonight, all 3 of you guys had a double-double apiece. How key was that in keeping the series alive going back to L.A.?
Definitely something we needed, to get a win, and something, Coach challenged us to do was, for us to rebound. So that's good.
Hey, Doc Holliday, Action News 5. Just talk about the mentality, man. You come into this game with a different, I don't want to say edge or intensity about yourself, knowing what was at stake.
Did I? Yeah. Nah. Approach every game the same way.
Ja, how did going to Kennard early in the third quarter change the game for you guys?
Coach's decision. We just, go out with whoever, the 5 on the floor is and, play with a lot of energy. Yeah.
Avery Braxton, ABC 24. Ja, that counterpunch you guys had there kind of the third or fourth quarter after they had made their own run, what was that like for you personally, and, what you think contributed to the win there at the end?
Just us locking in the detail, rebounding the ball, and, getting out and running. It's pretty much, one of the reasons, we won this game. Things that hurt us, in previous games, we did, a decent job at it tonight.
Going back to the question about Luke, did you feel like him being out there with you guys in that small lineup, do you feel like you found something there?
Luke is, one of the best shooters in the league. So obviously, that opens up a lot of space on the floor, and, we just, play off that.
Ja, so it just seemed like you and Des both put a lot of pressure on that Laker defense tonight. Was playing with force just kind of a mentality and game plan for you and Des going into tonight's game?
Pretty much, just film study, for me and him. Watching it with the team and with probably just on our own. Speaking for me, I see, when I get downhill, it's a lot of, passes I can make. And, when we watch it as a team, Coach bring that up too. So, when me and him was getting downhill, we was hitting guys. We made shots, and it opened up a lot for us.
Hey, Ja, the team that wins the first quarter in this series has won every game. It also sets the momentum for the game. You guys came out with a better energy. Other than hitting shots, why were you guys able to come off to such a good start in the first quarter?
Pretty much being ready to go and being at home, with our crowd.
Des has now scored big in 2 straight games. What has he done so well for you guys over the last 2 games? And what does that say about, the type of player that he is, that he's been able to ramp it up when the games count so much?
Him just being aggressive, looking for his shot. He can score in all 3 levels. So I feel like, he took it, pretty much, personal to, go out and, have big games for us. And, he delivered.
You guys were in a similar situation as this last year, but you weren't available. In your mind, what's it going to take to get back here for a Game 7?
Me being a leader and, being ready for this pedestal everybody got me on.
AD, you guys had gone on that run and capped by the D'Lo threes to get it within one. You took what looked like it was going to be a quick breather. It ends up a couple possessions. What are you seeing in those minutes when you're sitting in kind of the challenge of them maintaining what you're doing out there defensively, especially?
Obviously, Memphis knows, they attack the paint more when I'm not in the game, offensive rebounds, things like that. But we just had a couple bad possessions, turnovers, tough shots. We got into the transition, and they went on that run to end the third. And it's kind of tough for us to recover after that. We come out, start the third quarter, on a run, and kind of just get in the rhythm, get going. And that run kind of hurt us. So we just got to be better. Get ready for Friday.
Yeah, Darwin was saying, Friday, obviously important. You don't want to have to come back here. Might extend minutes if it needs to be. For you, is there a big difference between playing, one game into the 40s versus in the 30s and all that kind of stuff?
I'll play 48. This is all about. This is what you kind of prepared the entire season for. Starting off low minutes and kind of just working your way up through the course of the season to be able to, play extended minutes in the playoffs to get victory. So, if coach needs me to play, 42, 45, 48, whatever minutes to get the job done, I'll be ready to do so.
Just kind of take us through the mindset. I mean, obviously, you guys are still in really good position in the series, but in your first opportunity to close it out, didn't perform the way you guys wanted to. Can you kind of describe what that's like from a mindset standpoint?
It's the toughest game. I mean, closeout games are tough. The other team's going to come out with a sense of desperation, and it was on their home floor. Crowds into it. They got hot in the first quarter, making shots. Desmond Bane got hot, and they kind of just the crowd energy just kind of fed off into the other guys, and they started making plays and making shots. So we had our moments, we had our runs where we were able to get back in the game. Like I said, that run in the end of the third quarter kind of just got away from us. But, they did what they're supposed to do. We're going to go back to L.A. and, on our home floor where we're 2-0 and try to close it out.
AD, how's your hip doing? Darwin talked to us a little bit yesterday about you getting treatment these past couple of days. Just, kind of what's the pain level at right now and just kind of gutting through that?
Hip is fine. Felt fine tonight. Just trying to get treatment around the clock to make sure that I'm able to, I won't say able to go because I'm going to play regardless, but where it's feeling good, where I'm not in so much pain, going out there and moving. So doing everything I can to make sure I'm available to play and be on the floor to help the team.
You guys fell down by 25 in the fourth, and Darwin kept most of you guys out there for a bit. You're able to cut it 13 or 14. Do you think they're going to have any carryover effect from having the last kind of stretch that you guys played in today, even though it's a loss, being somewhat successful?
I think the idea there was trying to just see if we can make a run and cut the lead down. You never know what can happen. I think Denver was in some situation where they were down 12 and went on a run, went to overtime or something like that. So, you kind of just want to make a stretch of plays where you can see if you can make a run and see what happens from there. So that was really it. Yeah.
He played, to paraphrase it, like crap. What do you guys got to do as a team to make up for that on the rare off night for him?
Yeah, got to make shots. I think a lot of guys kind of struggled tonight shooting the basketball. But like I say, we're going back home. Guys gonna make shots. Bron's gonna play better. After game 2, when I played, played like crap. I had my head down, and he was telling me, keep my head up. Kind of just relaying that same message to him tonight. He got the most points scored ever. Greatest basketball player to ever touch the court. So, it's fine. He'll be fine. He'll adjust. He'll get better. Our team will get better. and we try to look at Friday as another opportunity to end the series.
AD, does the pressure shift to you guys in Game 6, or is it still on Memphis because they have to win the Game 6 to get back here, or is it essentially on both teams?
I think it's on both teams. I mean, we're looking to close the series, which is always the closeout game is always the toughest game because the other team, have pressure as well to not want to go home. So I think the pressure's on both teams. Obviously, we're looking not to come back here for a Game 7. Game 7, anything can happen. Who knows, right? We're still in control right now, and we got to take care of business on Friday.
After Game 5, you said that you felt good because you guys come back here and how good you guys have been here. Was it really that simple? It was a tough loss. Did you guys flip the page right away?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, flip the page. It's a game. We wanted to go our way. It didn't go our way. Watch the film, see where we can get better, and come out and execute.
Des, you, Jaren, Ja have each had great games in the series. Tonight, all three of you had double-doubles. What was working to get all three of you guys clicking like that, and how crucial is that going to be to continue to keep the series alive?
Coach was talking a lot about rebounding. It was something that we really talked about going into the series. That would be important, especially given Steve-O and BC being out. So he challenged us today, and I think that we responded.
Is there anything mentally or in film that clicked for you that's helped you sort of get the shots that you want to get over these last two games and score 30-plus?
I've had shots the whole series. They're just going in now, staying aggressive.
DeMichael.
Des, what did you like about that lineup? You, Tyus, Ja, I think Luke, and then Jaren. Y'all went real small. I think you were guarding the fours. In that stretch. Defensively, offensively, y'all succeeded when y'all did that. What did you like about it?
Everybody can push. Everybody can shoot. Everybody can play make. It's tough. And then you got JJ down there to protect the rim. So, I like it a lot.
You mentioned the other night you guys had the best home record. You told us you'd be back in L.A. for a Game 6. What has to happen for you guys to get it back here again? And how confident are you that you can pull that off?
Yeah, we got to come with the right, edge and the right road mentality. But, I said it out there and I'll say it again. We're going to be back for a Game 7 in front of the best fans in the NBA.
Des, it seemed like both you and Ja were just putting pressure and force on the defense. Was just that kind of a message, a conversation with you and Ja before the game to just keep putting pressure on the defense with y'all's downhill attack?
Yeah, the staff really challenged me before Game 4 just to find my aggression, and really be aggressive. And, Ja's aggressive, putting pressure on the paint every night. But, I've been doing it as well.
Des, you guys had a similar situation to this last year against Golden State, but this year you've got Ja in the lineup. I think you were pretty banged up by the end of that Golden State series. What does that mean to have you two clicking like you did tonight going into a game like this?
I like our chances.
Des, back-to-back games, 30-plus points. Obviously, Game 4, your shot wasn't necessarily falling, at least from the three-point range. You got that a little bit today. Did anything change, or is it just, keep on keeping on?
It's basketball. Shots going to go in, shots not going to go in. I'm going to keep shooting them.
Des, LeBron doesn't have many playoff games where he's relatively as quiet as he was tonight. What was working for you guys on that end against him?
I just think our discipline was very solid. Making them finish over top of us, not fouling them at the rim. We're in the right spots. He's a good player. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a team effort when we did that tonight. Appreciate it.